The following is a Roll Poll production.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. Apologies for being late. I'm Rahel. You can see alongside me is Chris Brown, Uper, and Mike. As we're experiencing some technical issues with my mic. The last couple weeks, we had a couple listeners point out that my levels have been terrible. And anybody who listens to or has listened to the Drew and Mike podcast, the infamous coffee spill. There was an infamous leak of liquid on my board a few weeks ago, and ever since then it hasn't been working right. So I just simply plugged the mic into input 2 on this Rodecaster board, and voila, I sound normal again. So I can even hear it right now. So let's pop another week capsule in because the first didn't hit it at all. Tomorrow is opening day. Yes, it is. The opening day roster has arrived, and there's some shock and awe to it as well. And I don't know. I don't know where to start with this, guys, but I know there's some people that are very highly disappointed with the roster, opening day roster. So I don't know who wants to start with that conversation.
Yeah, it is weird the amount of distress that people are going through right now. I understand, there are a bunch of players on the roster that they don't want there, but there aren't a whole lot of backup plans when you lose your top 4 center fielders, right? Like that's just not something people prepare for. Now you could argue that like, hey, they should have done more to address the offense in other spots and they'd be fine, but you'd still be trying to make room for Ryan Kreidler as your center fielder. They put Javi Baez out there to give him a try, and he looked okay, but I just don't think that they were comfortable with him doing that regularly. They brought in Margot. And there were a couple of tough decisions that are a bummer, right? Like Justyn-Henry Malloy did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Was actually very good this spring, and he just kind of, was the odd man out. I feel the same way about Kaiser Montero, really. He did nothing wrong this spring, but there were, extenuating circumstances in the rotation. But the rest of the roster decisions, make a decent amount of sense to me. Like we discussed the possibility of Hannafy over Foley. Hannafy seems like the new Foley. I don't know if we talked about Chafin not making it. I think Mike last week said that he didn't think he'd make it. I don't know if we speculated really that Herter would, but he did. So good for him.
Yeah, and it was something that I think you guys have both. I think everybody on the podcast has discussed before that Hertler has a role of being a guy out of the bullpen or as like a swing starter kind of type person, and that's how his role could be developed going forward because he does have that kind of swing and miss stuff to his stuff to the bullpen. So Bruce James said he was disappointed in Navigado didn't make the team or Jones. I get it though. I mean, those guys are. I'm not trying to dispute them or anything as 4A players, but I think Navigado is going to see some more time in the outfield before he gets a call up again. As far as Kreidler making the roster, it is what it is. I would take Jay Hen over Annual. You know what? I would too, actually. And I'm not gonna lie. It is a thing where I'm not gonna analyze the opening day roster because for a fact by next week this roster could change. By next opening day down at Comerica Park when the Tigers take on the White Sox. I don't know. Did it come to fruition that the outfield depth didn't came back to bite this team in the ass? Absolutely. Are we going to say we told you so? Yes, we are. No, I'm just joking. I mean, part of it's but
I think the opening day roster, as you kind of intimated, it's always a little over romanticized. Because we spend all of spring training looking at the roster, the quote unquote roster battles, the roster will change almost instantly within the next 10 days, probably at some point. Guys are going to come back from injuries. Guys are going to get hurt. Maybe the plan all along was for someone to go back for a week and work on something and come back. So, for the guys who did make it, sure. I mean, it's probably a thrill of a lifetime for some of these guys who might make their an opening day roster. Kind of a point of pride. But for the guys who got sent back, I don't think it's a career devastating moment. It's just a delay and they got to earn their way back and follow whatever Harris's plan is. So for me, I think Kreidler makes some sense. I think if they really believe that he can go out in center field and do a slightly above average job out there, they are, they're going to go with defense first. Make sure they can catch the ball. Start from
Um, so I'm just, oh goodness. So I'm with the opening day roster. I feel like there are at least, I looked at it as we saw there was an explanation for a lot of the moves. I mean, Justyn-Henry Malloy, we've brought it up. I mean, I know I brought it up a bunch about him. What's always going to screw him over is what position does he play?
Mm-hmm.
And that silence kind of just proves it. I don't know what position he plays in the field. And with them having, like you said, 4 outfielders out, that pretty much just put the fact that can't really trust Malloy in the outfield. Really, it really hurt his chances for making the roster in the first place. I think if he could play a lick of defense in the outfield, they might have kept him, but I don't think that they trusted him to do that either. When it comes to Herter, I think maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but I think that he made it over Foley is simply that they didn't want to go into the season with Tyler Holton as their only right-handed or left-handed relief pitcher. I mean, I think it might be as simple as that. So having at least a second left-handed option in the bullpen. I mean, we all talk about how much Hinch loves that versatility. It's a lot harder to be, lean into matchups when you have one left-handed guy. In terms of Kreidler, I know that fans are not huge on him because they've seen a lot of at-bats and he's shown really nothing special. But I think that this just kind of, again, exemplifies something that we've talked about in the past is the lack of outfield depth in the system in the first place. And this is where it's coming to kind of bite them, is that they're going to have to put somebody that isn't an outfielder out there because it's just the only option they really have right now. And like you were saying, the roster turnover, I wouldn't be surprised if Margot might be one of those guys that's not even on the team next week. They're just giving him a shot. He's a veteran that has played. He has service time. Like he's been in the league for a while. So that's really the only thing that makes sense for that signing with me.
Yeah. Margot is the Urshela for this year. Basically,
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit before, and I think this is a trend throughout baseball. Maybe it hasn't caught on everywhere, but I think teams are much more concerned about outfield defense now than infield defense for whatever reason. You see Mookie Betts moving to second base and shortstop and stuff like that, and Max Muncy playing third. Like the big organizations like whatever, but they don't want to screw up on the outfield. And Margot, they could have gone with Malloy or Torque in a corner outfield, or playing Carpenter every day. But I think Margot just gives them a little bit of safety there, where they know he could play the outfield, despite what he looked like in San Francisco in his first game. He's got a long track record of being a pretty solid outfielder, and he's actually been a decent player overall. He's like a 10 career WAR player, and they got him for cheap, and they can cut him, right? So it's not a huge deal. It does feel odd given the rest of the roster, but I think they just wanted a little bit more certainty in the outfield for now. And to your point about like Herter making it, I absolutely think they want another lefty, and I think Chafin not being on a big league deal, basically, that's why he's in Toledo, basically, because they don't have to take him. So they're like, we don't have to, so we're gonna use all our options here. And I mean the Foley and Hannafy one was just like this is a meritocracy, but right, like Hannafy pitched better. He was basically doing exactly what they wanted Foley to do, and Foley was okay, but you know what? They have options on him again, so he'll be up. We got to remind people that Bo Brisky was in Toledo to start the year last year, so we'll see Foley again.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, Foley has to get that swing and miss stuff back. I mean, at some point too, you might see Alex Lang, who is kind of forgotten about at some point, if he can get back to form at all. The Tigers are going to return, or are going to look at every single stone possible. I mean, they signed Ben Gamble today for the sake of just, so Ben Gamble, come on up. It's just it's a matter of who they're going to put out there. Now, do I think the defense is a little suspect? Oh, absolutely. It's not what it was. It's not, across the board. They sacrificed. I don't think they realized, well, wait a minute. If we get J-Hen in here, we sacrificed completely our defense. And, I mean, they already did that with Torres at second. You look at their situation at third right now, and even at short, depending on the day, how people feel about Baez, you know, Trey Sweeney's your defensive upgrade, if you will. I mean, when Baez is healthy, he's an effective shortstop. I will stick by that. You know, and then you have Cole Keith playing first base for the first time. Then you have Torkelson and right. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Really,
So-
is my audio lacking? Really? I thought my audio was better.
It was. You got quiet again.
What about now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like at that level. I think I have to be directly like on the mic like this.
So yeah, you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, the trickle down effect for Malloy. Let's say they thought he could be a bad but somewhat playable left fielder. But how much of that is contingent on having a real deal center fielder next to him? You know, if Meadows is in the lineup, I mean, would they be more willing to put Malloy out there and left right now? Would that change things? I don't know.
I think it's possible. I still just think like that they just don't want guys who can like, one or two mistakes in the outfield can cost you quite a bit. It's I don't know. I do think that they probably would feel a little bit more comfortable if you've got a guy who can run from line to line, as it were. But yeah, I don't know. I think this offseason is just proof that time travel doesn't exist because. You'd have to feel like if they could go forward to right now and knew that Torque would have a great spring and Malloy would have a great spring and like, I mean, obviously you can't. It's spring. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but maybe they wouldn't sign Torres. Of course, the fans would be up in arms that they didn't do anything for the offense. But it's just the way it's gone. They tried to make some moves and all this other stuff has happened, and now they're just trying to square peg, round hole it, at least for the first couple of weeks. But again, like Matt Vreeling's going to be back in a few weeks. That'll solve some issues. Hopefully Meadows comes back, in late May. So they just need to survive for a little while.
All right, so but is that better? By the way, everybody's complaining about my mic levels. Okay,
Yeah.
Not complaining. Sorry, it's just we're trying to make the best show possible. So here is the Tigers just did a dear Detroit letter, by the way, from Tarek Skubal himself. I will show it here on the screen in just a second. Let's see here.
As Jaden says, with a pen emoji, but there's nothing about an extension, which is a bummer.
It is what it is. I mean, it's that Boris is gonna be like, don't you even dare talk about extension. No. Until I get my hands on it. So here it is. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more for those watching us on YouTube. See here. So see if I can. I'm gonna get my reading glasses on. I'll get my peepers on because I'm at that point in my age of life where
I want AI to read this in Daniel Stern's voice from the Wonder Years.
There you go.
Oh man,
Or Jim Leland's voice.
Or Jim, or about Casey.
Even though
Kase's
I'm from a
voice,
small town in Arizona.
From Casey Kase's voice. Dear Detroit. You know what? Let's
even though I'm from a small town in Arizona.
Yeah, we'll revisit that.
Ernie
I'll
Harwell
get that going. Meanwhile, go ahead, guys. As you were saying, so
Harwell. Lulu.
Well, I get that going. I'm gonna get the Dear Detroit letter going properly.
All right.
How's my audio still lacking?
What? It's not. What? It seems fine to me.
It is still on the quiet side. I get it. I'm sorry.
I don't want to. If I put it up full blast.
I mean, now you sound normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my earphones, I sound like I'm blurring on my ears. So let me turn down my earphones then, probably.
Oh, maybe a little bit.
Too soft. Oh boy.
That's good. No,
today's been
good.
a day. Today's been like this week. I've worked. Let's see. It's Wednesday. I've already worked 39 hours to my between my job and this.
Too much.
Yeah, a lot. I'm a little crispy right now. But anyways, continue guys on. I'm gonna go get this Dear Detroit thing going. But let's talk about what do you guys want to go into? Let's change.
Well, there's a ball game.
We do have our segments back, by the way.
Yeah.
No, it's not about you, Stan. Don't even dare. Don't even dare, Stan. Come on.
There is as you were saying, there is a game tomorrow. The Tigers are playing their first game of the season. The season has begun. which is, yeah, there's this weird. I don't know. There's a weird sense among Tigers fans right now. Everybody's complaining about everything.
Yeah.
The scoreboard, they took down the Tiger sign and it's Comerica now, and the keyhole is gone. How are they going to get to the mound? That the catchers are going to be lost forever. I don't know. I guess like we were talking about this before. That like I understand that we all like things that are unique about ballparks and stadiums and stuff, but I really ultimately don't think that the path to the mound is that big of a deal.
It's not a big deal, but I liked it. I think the
Yeah, me too.
the big reason was it's only one left, and it's kind of like a bygone era passing by, and they got rid of. They didn't have a great reason. They say players and coaches wanted it gone. Oh, okay, I guess if they want it gone, that's what they get.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
fine.
I liked the flagpole being in play, and they put that out of play, and it was like, whatever. Like, you could get rid of these unique things, and it doesn't really matter that much. It's just, yeah.
It's a 2-day story. It'll revive itself on the home opener, and then it'll be gone again in 2 more days.
Yeah, I was surprised so many people were offended by that. I think that's more of like a fake outrage kind of thing, because if the players wanted to do it, then what's the big deal?
Yeah, it is odd that the players like what about maybe I don't know. Is it distracting to the eye for hitters? Could it
Sunlight? It could be sunlight that hits the
dirt?
Yeah.
I don't. The only what I thought was like, hey, let's make the infield grass thick and slow so that help our bad defense. But
I was thinking that maybe does the ball skid more on a comebacker?
Yeah, I mean,
for the pitchers, I don't know.
I was joking that's why Matt Manning kept getting hit, because the ball was following the dirt. But no,
there you go.
No, he's going to get hit in Toledo.
But tomorrow night we get to see Skubal versus Ohtani.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a nice way to kick the year off.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fun watching Skubal against the best of the best, right? Like it's fun watching him in the All-Star game, fun watching him dominate last year. So yeah, it's a pretty premier matchup right there for sure.
Being out on the West Coast, taking on the world champs, and then going up to Seattle, the Tigers actually faced the first 6 games pretty formidable pitching, night in and night out. And the Tigers come back with their pitching staff too, and they don't have to be afraid of anybody. But still, if you tell me the Tigers score 8 runs over the first 6 games, I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be stunned.
That's a really good point, because really, I mean, you literally have the best pitching staff in the National League, followed by the best pitching staff in the American League. That's a pretty rough first 6 games.
Yeah, and I don't know if we ever talked about this or not, but I think it was Mike Petriello wrote an article about how it's Seattle, the park effect there is more drastic than Coors Field. It's just the opposite direction. So that's a more pro pitching park in Seattle than Coors is a pro batting park. So part of the outstanding pitching there is just the fact that nobody can hit there.
Yeah.
So yeah, runs are going to be at a premium. Yeah. The good news is the Tigers seem to have pretty good pitching, and we got a glimpse of a lot of good stuff yesterday. First of all, it was the last game of spring training, so batters were doing the smart thing and swinging constantly. And Jackson Jobe flashed some really nice stuff, particularly his secondaries. His that was the best I've seen his curve looking games, and his
Really
changeup
good.
is always really good. His cutter is now, it looks like a traditional slider to me. Like when he first started throwing that, it felt like a true cut fastball. It was just a little slight horizontal movement at the end. You could backdoor a little bit, or run it into lefties, and now it's got 2-plane break. It's a little bit slower. It seems like it's more like 88, 89, and it's that looks good too. So, only question with Jobe is what are we going to do with that fastball? Because it doesn't miss a whole lot of bats, and when he's trying to locate it at the top of the zone, it's almost always like 6, 8, 10 inches high for whatever reason. Now maybe that's just something he needs to work out, but I don't know. If that's your number 5 starter, I think you're doing okay, because there could be any given night he might go out there and give you like 6 no-hit innings.
That homer he gave up was pretty much a fastball, middle.
Yep.
And
It
it was gone. And Fitzgerald crushed that thing.
yeah, I mean that's gonna be the hard lessons he's learning this year. Is you can get away with those pitches at times if you know how to sequence right, but if I think that was a 1-0, 2-0 pitch or something like that, it's like you can't do that.
Yeah.
But whatever. And then Casey Mize came in and struck out everybody before a couple hits. So yeah, I mean Mize looks great. Olsen has looked great. Scooble looks great. Flaherty looks good. It's we're gonna see some good pitching this first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway that I have about the staff, why I think that's going to be an 84 win team, is because of the pitching. I think the offense is going to take some time. It's going to be a thing where I think that it's just going to be until they get healthy. They just have to. That's why I put what I like putting out movie posters, because I think movie posters are a good way to capture things in time, frozen in time and frozen in whatever the movie they preview. And I did one for the season for the Tigers, and I put the theme being "Run the Gauntlet," because they're literally going to have to run the gauntlet. They have a brutal schedule. The White Sox are not exactly they're not a pushover, but they're not very good either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to cause a tangent, but are they not worse than they were at the end of last year? Right now, on paper,
six. Yeah, just as soon as I said that, I realized I just made a mistake because they had 6 guys in camp that had Tommy John surgery. 6.
And Crochet's gone.
And Crochet's gone. So it's like, I've been thinking about this. It's hard to set the losing record twice in a row, but if anybody's got a shot, I think the White Sox really do.
What was somebody posted the quote? Somebody asked Luis Robert, "Hey, are you surprised you're still here to start the season?" He said, "Yeah, honestly, I am." It's like, hey, refreshing candor.
Why lie? Everybody knows.
But yeah, I mean, you would hope that the Tigers can take care of business against the White Sox, but it's baseball. You never know.
So this first week, 6 tough games on the road, West Coast. Obviously, I know maybe I shouldn't say obviously because I won't speak for you guys, but if they went 3-3, I would take that right now and not even watch the games. I mean, because I think that would be a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah, so you get Snell with what two Cy Youngs. You get Yamamoto. Then you get Roki Sasaki, the favorite to be Rookie of the Year, and then you're getting Emerson Hancock. They can handle that, and then a couple more TBDs, but probably. You're getting somebody good from Seattle.
I thought it was Castillo and Gilbert.
Well, Hancock is what it's listed at right now. The other two were TBD, but Castillo and Gilbert would make sense, right? Say either those two or Bryce Miller or George Kirby's hurt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Wu out as well?
No, Wu's
Wu's
pitching.
fine. Yeah.
So all right, yeah.
Wu's pitching Sunday.
So they've got a decent chance, but maybe just a little small ball, right? Use Margot and Kreidler and Baez to bunt constantly.
So classic NL baseball, is that what we're going to see here, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, a little whitey ball or whatever it was.
Yeah. We could use that. That's definitely a good idea here.
It's all whitey ball, if we're being honest.
So does the fact that they are facing arguably the 2 best pitching staffs in or at least top 5 in MLB, Larry just asked, what is an acceptable record? I mean, you brought up 3-3. Do you expect anything more from that? Than that, rather? I don't think it's reasonable to expect more, but I was just curious what you guys thought.
It's baseball, If Colt Keith hits 3 home runs next week, and all of a sudden they steal a couple games, sure, they could go 4-2, and why would you be? Can't even be shocked about that. But I just to be realistic, 2-4, 3-3, and I think you head home and not be too upset about it.
I think 2-4 is fine.
Yeah.
You wouldn't love 1-5 or whatever, but how many against the White Sox? 3. You take those 3, and then you're 4-5. It's fine. Yeah. I mean, we should remember. Riley Green's an all-star. Was like a 6-WAR player last year. Kerry Carpenter can hit anybody, as long as they're right-handed. Say hello to Class A. So they could sneak up on some people. Scooble's not going to be a pushover. And the one benefit, I guess you could say, is that it's early in the season. So even if they get owned by a starter, it's probably not going to be more than 6 innings.
True.
And they seem to specialize in beating up on relievers for some reason.
All right, so I'm just about ready to have somebody read. We're getting ready to read this Tarek Skubal, Dear Detroit letter here in just a second.
Is it Morgan Freeman?
But
Andy Dufresne.
it would be nice to find. I couldn't find a Andy Dufresne. I wanted the a voice I wanted to find really bad. It would have been perfect for this, and it would have been funny. In a weird way, it would have been funny, but something along the lines of like what's his face? The old actor from Laurence Olivier or something like that. Just something like really super.
Maybe get John Gielgud.
Yeah, or
Somebody
Ian
who really
McGregor,
enunciates.
something like that.
Vin Scully.
Yeah, Class A has a 7 ERA in spring training. It's spring training.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I was talking to Raj about this the other day. I don't care at all about a reliever's performance in spring training because you can't fake games mattering, and those guys live on adrenaline. And like we saw it with Brisky and Vest and basically every reliever the Tigers put out there. Like you just can't. No matter what you do, you can't simulate a game actually mattering in spring training. And so if you have any inkling that you're going to be on the roster, relievers, I don't think they do anything. They're just out there getting their work in.
Yeah.
And that's fair, but it also costs Foley his opening day job, so
Yeah, well, somebody like Foley, you got to go out there and do what you got to do. But like,
Foley was losing his grip last September, really.
yeah, and so
9
guys,
saves in September.
And they didn't use him in the playoffs. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
no,
No,
and
I know.
somebody-
If you really,
Being devil's
so go
advocate
ahead.
a bit. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, or if you think about it from the standpoint of, if you look at, Parker Meadows saving his ass with that catch in Seattle, I mean that ball was gone. That ball was gone. Can you imagine not having Parker Meadows out there for that?
Yeah.
That was a part of the season too, where they were kind of like, I don't want to say dire straits necessarily, but they were at an important crossroad a little bit. With it, in terms of like, I think they were teetering under 500 right about there, right?
I remember very clearly. We talked right around at the beginning of that series how they could really only afford to lose maybe one more series the rest of the way if they wanted to make a little crazy run at the playoffs, which they ultimately did. And that was a big reason why they won that series, obviously. So if they lose that game, because they had just lost the series in San Diego to the Padres. So that would have been back-to-back losing series. Who knows where that takes them from there?
Yeah. I don't know. Yep, but anyway, I'm not. I don't think Emmanuel Clase is worried about losing his grip on a relief spot, and maybe Cade Smith overtakes him as a closer, but I think he's probably just out there throwing 15 pitches right down the middle.
Yeah, and no one's gonna hit him.
I've got a friend.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got a Cleveland Guardians fan who I talk to online all the time, and he only types Cade Smith's name as K''D. He doesn't type his name.
I like that.
And that's just anytime anybody says his name, that's how I see it in my head. I love it.
We were doing a little trivia thing on Discord today, with Foley going down. Foley was not drafted by the Tigers, but I was curious to see which drafted players have gotten saves for the Tigers since the year 2000. There are only 10 of them, players who were drafted by the Tigers and then recorded saves since 2000, and one of them was Luke Putkonen. Luke Putkonen.
The Finnish Flash.
Well, there he goes. Our buddy Charlie was talking about how he remembered him because back in the day they used to talk about when he would come in, they'd say finish him. It's finish with 2 N's and HYMN. I was like, well, that's clever. Who came up with that? Too bad he wasn't very good.
Oh, but being a Finnish extraction myself, I was a big Luke Putkonen guy. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if he was the dude. I don't think he's the guy. We went to a game once and saw a guy take a liner right off the head, and that was basically it for his career. I don't think it was Putkonen. but it was another random Tigers reliever taken. I think he was taken much later in the draft, and now I'm going to go find out who it was because it was like, oh, that's a bummer. And yeah, he never pitched again.
Yeah, there you go.
Damn.
So who were some of the others that were drafted with these saves?
Oh well, there was 10 of them. So number 1 was Matt Anderson with 26. Then you've got Bo Brisky, Will Vest. Who am I missing here? Garrett Hill had 1. Ryan Perry had 2. Drew Smiley had a handful.
I like Drew Smiley.
Trying to think of who else it was. It was just a handful more. And there were players the Tigers drafted who then went on to get saves, but just not for the Tigers, like Corey Knebel and stuff. But now
I really thought Ryan Perry was going to be good. I was stupid.
Well, the all reliever draft somehow didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, the Angel style draft.
2008.
Yeah,
All
2008.
those college relievers.
Yeah, but they did get an all-star catcher, and they got a color commentator.
Andy Durant.
That's right. That's right. But as far as we did talk. One of the things we did talk about. We did talk to the Twins podcast, the upload that still, and I don't feel I feel better about the Tigers roster still because look at the Twins, same situation. It's you look across the division. The only roster that I'm really kind of concerned with long term outside of Cleveland is the Royals. The Royals are kind of to me a kind of the wild card because they're, I know that Jeff Passan said that the best team he's seen in camp was the Tigers. And he almost said the Royals too. So he said he originally was going to be the Royals, and then he went to the Tigers camp, and then that's what he said. So.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely terrified. I'm assuming Kansas City wins the Central. Bobby Witt's gonna. It's only a matter of time. I think it's not if, it's when Bobby Witt just breaks out and is top 5 MVP.
Oh, he was second last year, wasn't third?
Right,
but yeah,
right.
Is Pasquantino still hurt? I know he hurt his hamstring a little bit, but I don't know. It does feel like the Royals are a solid team, but I don't know. So much is on Bobby Witt. What happens if he gets injured? You don't wish that on anybody, and maybe he won't be. Maybe he'll be an Iron Man or whatever. But I don't know. Like you were saying last year, we can't count on Tarek Skubal winning the Cy Young Award again. Bobby Witt's amazing, but you don't necessarily know if what he did last year was just the beginning, or maybe that's his career year. So I don't know. I feel like the Royals have room to improve, I should say. They could very well win the division, but I don't necessarily fear them as much.
Yeah, I wonder about their bullpen a little bit. And I've been hearing a lot of real unbridled optimism about Jonathan India. And which, don't get me wrong, he's a decent enough player, but he's no star. He's been in the league a while, and they're plugging him in, and he might help them. I just don't think that he is someone who vaults your team forward either, though.
Right, and Salvador Perez, he has to fall off one day, right?
Yeah.
One
Not
day.
this year. He's my fantasy catcher, man. I can't.
Oh God, I'm sorry to put that on you. Yeah, he's just the age 35 year, man.
Yeah,
Is he 35?
He'll be
30,
35
yep, he's going to be
this
turning
year,
35 this year.
Okay.
It feels like he's been 35 for 10 years, but
Yeah, he's always looked 35.
yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, he had a good year last year, 27 home runs. I don't know. But we'll see. Jeff Farrell. Jeff Farrell was the guy I was thinking of. Jeff Farrell, conked in the head by a line drive. That was it for him.
We miss him.
Bummer for Jeff
26th round pick in 2010. Anyway.
All right.
But yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Or Mike,
I was just gonna say, comparing the Tigers roster to other teams, I think Kansas City is the only one that I'm super afraid of. I think that people are, at least nationally, what I've read in the past week, people seem to be kind of high on Minnesota. I've seen a lot of people pick Minnesota to actually be the team that wins the Central, which, after seeing them collapse at the end of last year, that's recency bias, but really that's fresh in my mind. So I'm like, I can't believe that. But if that's really nationally what people think is the best roster in the AL Central, maybe you do have a point. And I've been thinking about that a lot too, Roger. And I think I'm a little higher on them than I was last week even. maybe by a half a win or so.
I'm just looking at Fangraphs, 2025 projected standings or records. They do have the Twins as the best in the AL Central at 83 and 79.
Who's that? Who did?
Fangraphs has the Twins at 83 and 79. The Tigers and Royals are both 81 and 81. The Guardians are 78 and 84, and the White Sox are 63 and 99. So, the projection systems always kind of bunch up in the middle, and anything. But yeah, it's basically it's up for grabs for the 4 teams, just like we thought.
I picked the Twins to win the division this year. I just think that they have a couple pitchers who didn't make the opening day roster, but I think they'll take a lot of starts. And I think Zebby Matthews is going to be pretty good. David Festa probably is not as good as him, but pretty presentable. But then a lot of people think Emmanuel Rodriguez is coming from the minors and could debut this year.
Yeah.
And Luke Keeschel as well. So I think they have some weapons that they're going to debut, and if they have rookie breakouts, then that could separate them a little bit.
I think the Twins and the Tigers are right there. They're just like, I think that it just depends on which offense can click on faster or more consistently, and that's what it is to me. I did find a celebrity voice. It's not a very good one, but let's give this a shot. It only works for a couple of seconds because I'm not paying for the other version, but this is from the first part.
Dear Detroit, even though I'm from a small town in Arizona, we have a lot more in common than you might think. As I've learned more about our city, it's clear that Detroit has faced its fair share of adversity. Dear Detroit, even though I'm from a small town in Arizona.
That's who that is.
Billy
right?
Mays.
Billy Mays. There's other ones I can use. So let me see if I can find another one that's less embarrassing. But Billy Mays was the first one that came up. There's a couple of them actually. Yeah, we could. Yeah, there's anyway.
No, I mean, just briefly to get back to the Twins. That was what we talked about with the Locked On Twins host. And it really is. They just love players who are injured all the time. It's Emmanuel Rodriguez is a guy who's never played more than 99 games in a season, and that's the only time he's ever played more than like 50 in a season. He's just constantly injured, and Brooks Lee is hurt again. Royce Lewis is hurt again. Correa is just a ticking time bomb with his plantar fasciitis or whatever. You can't count on that team being injured, right? They could all stay healthy, but it just feels like they're always going to be down a player or two. But I do hate
Byron Buxton, unbelievable.
Yeah. And Bailey Ober, for whatever reason, just dominates the Tigers, throwing 89 to 91. He's the new Chris Young.
Made the White Sox roster, by the way. Wolf.
Nick Maton, yeah.
Yeah, Nick Maton, the Wolf. The Wolf. So, yeah, I mean, if that's any indication of things to come. But the White Sox also released Oscar Colas, which I thought, and it was interesting because I know a few years ago there was a kind of a, I think both Yupa and I were pretty excited about him as a possibility, maybe as a rookie of the year candidate. But that did not come. He did not get past Double-A. So
the Cuban Ohtani.
Yeah, exactly. He was getting really some strong comps, and I thought that was kind of unfair, honestly. But at the same time, he's out there. But okay, so I did find a better celebrity voice by all means. So let's take this one away, and then we'll get back to you. Yeah, there we go.
E-R-D-T-R-I-T. Even though I'm from a small town in Arizona, you have a lot more in common than you might think. As I've learned more about our city.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Oh,
As I've learned.
Yeah, as I learned it. Yeah.
T-R-I-T.
I-T. He can't even say the year.
He spells Detroit, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
T-R-I-T.
Oh no, there's no. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So all right.
Show you how our
AI has
society
ways to
has
go.
changed, right?
Pardon
The
me?
Macho Man, all his shtick was he going to beat up Elizabeth or not? Half the time.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Elizabeth, don't do it.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead. Go, Mike.
we're just glossing over a little bit about the letter. Like, I don't know if you guys while some other people have been talking, I had a chance to skim it and read it.
Yeah.
I
enjoyed it though. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like, what the hell's the point of this? I thought two things. There were two immediate thoughts. Oh my God, they just signed him to an extension. And then when I didn't see like a dollar sign or anything like that or anything about a signature, I was like, oh my God, they traded him. Like, it's just like, what do you write a letter for except in those two situations? That's crazy to me. Weird timing. I know. I had a minor heart attack because I saw somebody post about it that said, like, I can't believe he would do that and not sign an extension. And I was like, what? Wait, did they trade him? What? That's weird. I'm not saying it's not cool, but like, it's not in a vacuum, man. Like in a vacuum, sure, that's kind of cool, but I think it's kind of odd. It's like a Detroit hype letter.
Could you imagine?
It's not even a video. It's a hype letter.
Well-
like, what year is it? The 1700s? I don't know.
Deadly Ninja Bees with the preemptive goodbye there.
See again. Those are the thoughts that I was having when I was reading the letter. I'm like, no.
And the bad news is they traded him to the Dodgers. He's going to pitch against the Tigers tomorrow.
Let's not. Okay, let's Okay, all right. Let me be Mr. Like here's the thing. Like I try to be. We're all cynical. We're all in nature and anything. But hey, look. Let's just do the segment we haven't done in a while.
Reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
No, what is that? The number.
All right. So that was the reason why I brought up the inside numbers is simply put, Tigers are a better team than they were last year. And it's by the numbers. I mean, if you look at in terms of offensive players, in terms of who they added, offensively, on paper, this team's better. I look, we try, I know that sometimes like we tend to be cynical jerks and whatever the case is, we keep things in a realm of realism. But the depth in Toledo right now, in terms of pitching, is better. Although we don't know what's going on, time man. We still haven't got the. Please, for the love of God, put out the minor league injury report, please. Can you do that, please, Tigers? Please, thank you. Or put out the rosters. Put out Toledo's rosters. That would be cool. What a concept, right? Give all this. We gotta keep this. Why? Why can't we just have these things? Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have? I want to know what the roster is in Lakeland. Damn it. Maybe is it not as a podcast host, as a humble writer of prospects, but people want to know. Come on, they want to plan their week. Toledo's opening day is Friday. We have no idea what the rosters are. None. Zero. I mean, we have an idea, an inkling, but come on, guys, let's go. Chop chop.
I mean, I don't know if you can definitively say the roster's better. I mean, I think that's based on projections. I mean,
Right.
if you on paper, I think that they're probably about the same. Really, it averages out. The defense is worse. The offense is marginally better. And I guess you could say that the starting pitching is probably a little better. But I think that that's me even projecting Casey Mize a little bit. Really, I think they're exactly the same on paper. I feel like even after last year, ultimately, I just don't think they ultimately got all that much better. Maybe I'm putting too much weight into defense. Maybe I'm not putting enough weight into defense. But I don't know. I don't really know if you can definitively say that.
The one thing I'll say, well, who am I kidding? I have more than one thing to say, but I'll start off by saying a lot of it depends on Colt Keith, right? Is he ready to take that sophomore jump to being a guy who contributes periodically toward being a steady producer? That changes the offense, the whole face of it to me. If you plug him in as a bit of a catalyst, right? And the other thing is, so many years during the Tigers' fallow periods there, when they couldn't beat anybody, we really bemoaned how there was no power. And it's starting to get back to the point, especially if Spencer Torkelson is a ball player again, which we don't know. But if he is, when you look at Carpenter and you look at Green and you look at perhaps Colt Keith and you look at a guy like Gleyber Torres who has at least a 30 home run season under his belt in the past. And a few other players. There is a little bit more power to this team where they can all of a sudden put one in the seats and change the course of a game.
Yeah, and that's where I think that's the lies of difference, Mike. I think what I saw in spring training, I mean, again, spring training doesn't count to a certain extent, but it seemed like the Tigers do have some power. I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna be an all or for nothing kind of thing. They're gonna have games where they're gonna have 8 runs, and then they have stretches of games where they have 2 runs or barely anything. And I think that's what it's going to be. It's gonna be feast or famine, based off that. And the thing is that as far as like Kerry Carpenter is concerned. And there was some really weird articles out there on Twitter about some of the stats about Carpenter and Keith and everything. I think the way Cole Keith's been hitting the ball, he's a guy who could put it in the gap. I think some of those hits he hit to the warning track last year go to the home runs, and I think he has a 20 home run, 20 double season. I think that's not too much to ask. I think he is capable of that kind of being that type of player. As far as win goes, I know everybody's in here. R1 says 87. Larry says 81 and 81. I'm still sticking to my 84 wins, 83, 84 wins. That's what I'm going to stick with because I think the Tigers have enough pitching to get there. The injuries do concern me. Again, it's just the biggest surprise to me is that people are already calling Harris the Matt for not making a trade. I mean, Matt, this is what Harris does. Harris will look through and comb over waivers until they find something. And then I will say it would be nice if he made a trade, but at the same time, this is for everybody who's complaining about the 4 foul field options. This is his MO since going back to San Francisco. This is nothing new to anybody. If you pay attention to his history, and look, he got the Tiger. I mean, was a little bit of last year with like when we talked to the Twins, Locked On Twins host Robert. Was it Robert Brown, Chris?
Dave
Brown. Chris's Minnesota cousin. It's crazy. You can't really. It's a thing to me that the Twins. Even like let's take a moment not to forget about Cleveland either. Stephen Kwan's still out there. Is going to be annoying as all hell. That's his MO. He's only one player among other players on Cleveland, but Cleveland might take a step back a little bit because that rotation is one injury away from being totally 100%. Gavin Williams is not a for sure thing either. I mean, Gavin Williams has been injured since he's came up. They do have some depth, and Harris has been conservative, and that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. It has paid off so far, but I mean, again, there's some questions about the defense and everything. I still think that on paper, the offense is better, the pitching is slightly better, and they have some guys that might come up. Hannafy looked really good this spring, but also guys like you know what? I'll give you. Let's do something here real quick. Let's do 4 unknowns. Okay, 4 unknowns that you're gonna put in here. So, for example, for me, I think Tyler and I mentioned this earlier in a Discord. Tanner Coheap comes up at some point. Like that's an unknown. It's unknown that he could come up and contribute to the bullpen. Number 2, Hyu Lee gets his swing stuff figured out, and he comes up at some point and becomes a factor playing third. That's an unknown. Like it doesn't look it's a prospect unknown. Another unknown is they get production from somebody that they weren't expecting. Like Andy Ibanez becomes a regular infield, a regular contributor. And then another unknown or just a complete random leap of faith, if you will. And this is just total 100%. Dylan Dingler becomes like the number 1 catcher offensively.
Yeah.
That's so those are like my examples of unknowns. If you guys got one, and Minnesota, and I like the two degenerates answer. And Minnesota is ass.
I like it.
I think, Jace Young is definitely a huge one right now, especially starting out in AAA. If at any point he does come up and contribute, it's weird that he is not very far away from being a very highly regarded prospect. And now since he debuted last year, it just kind of feels like he's not thought of as highly now. Obviously there are reasons why, but I mean that it just took him, not very many at bats for people to just be like, all right, well, that's it for Jace Young. He could end up contributing.
Unless you ask Chris Brown. I'm staring right at Chris on my screen right now.
He could.
No,
I mean, I mean, Spencer Torkelson's a huge unknown, right? Like, he looked good this spring. His at bat against Robbie Ray the other day was as encouraging as I've seen, and he just kept battling and finally got a pitch and he crushed over the wall. We've seen him do that occasionally. If he can do that more frequently, like I mentioned in a chat that he was basically the only Tigers hitter who had a good at bat against Cade Smith in the ALDS last year. He had a really good at bat and eventually I think drove a double off the wall. Like, it's in there. My concern has always been how quickly can he adjust when they start pitching him differently. But if he becomes, and what are the chances of this? But if he becomes anywhere close to what he was promised, right? That's a huge factor that could help the team, right? Like 30 plus home runs, 250 average. That would be monstrous. But I don't know. The other unknowns are just guys. Sean Gunther was not thought of last year. This year it could be Dietrich Enns, PJ Poulin.
That's another good one.
Any of those random minor league relievers. So
I'm going to throw something crazy out here. I think Javi Baez is going to be. I think he's going to be a non-negative WAR player this year. I think he might be right at 0. I think he might even out to 0.0. But I think Javi Baez is a non-negative WAR player this year. Call me crazy.
Who's a better year? Here's a question for you, Mike. Who has a better year, him or Willie Castro?
Amazing, isn't
I
it?
loved Willie Castro. We were talking about that, me and you, talking about because I got Donnie Kelly baby behind me. Loved those guys. I loved all the Castros and Victor Reyes. And at the same time, I'm super happy. I feel like I'm not rooting for as many of those guys on the roster right now. It was rough when it felt like there was 5 or 6 guys on the roster that all kind of lumped together in that Harold Castro sort of vibe. And I put Willie Castro in there at the time when he was here.
That's Ryan Kreidler is basically Donnie Kelly.
Yeah.
They're tall, skinny, play all over the place. Kreidler, I think, is probably a better defender. Kelly did have one year where he randomly put up like 2 WAR somehow. But Kreidler, way back in the day, I'm not expecting this, right? But 3-4 years ago, Kreidler was. We talked about it when he, Green, and Torkelson all came up to Toledo. He was the best looking of that trio. He had a home run in the first game. He was really hitting well. I think there are issues with his swing where it's never really going to work, but it wouldn't shock me if Kreidler has like 6 good weeks at the big league level before he gets solved. Like, he does only have, and we've seen him 3 separate years, and he's never looked any good. But it's only 150 at bats, right? Like, it's not like 3 seasons full of proof.
Not to mention too, it's wrist problems.
Yeah, he's constantly injured.
Yeah,
Had those hand problems, yeah.
And none of it was ever his fault. Like, it wasn't like, he's got a back and most injuries aren't somebody's fault, but you know what I mean? Like
hit by fastballs.
Yeah, it wasn't like, we got to worry about his soft tissue injuries, or it was just like, whoops. So
my unknown is Trey Sweeney.
Yeah.
That guy was given a lot of credit for the Tigers rally last season. And he deserved some of it, but in the end, he hit about 218. I mean, we don't know what kind of offensive player he is at the big league level. I mean, we saw a very small sample, and he hit a couple of homers. That was nice. But if they intend on making him their full-time shortstop, there's a lot of things that he needs to answer over the course of a 6-month season that we haven't seen. So, but if that tilts to the positive, then that really means something for this club as well. If shortstop's not a black hole,
and if it is, then they have Ryan Kreidler, so they'll be fine, right?
Kreidler, Baez, McKinstry, Ibanez, they've all played some shortstop. Torres could be playing shortstop at some point.
Did Torres say he would? I mean, without saying it, didn't he kind of say he wouldn't not play second base? Maybe I'm overthinking that, but
who?
I thought I saw Torres say that he wouldn't. He was only going to play second base. Maybe.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, he did say that. You're absolutely correct. He did say that.
I mean, that's what he said to the Yankees last year or whatever, and it's been presumed that that's what he turned down an offer to play third for, I think, the Nationals. So yeah, he's probably, but like, I'm just saying, like, if there's a situation where they don't have any shortstops, I'm sure that he would be like, all right, fine, because he's played shortstop before. It would probably be real ugly, but
Yeah, a negative defensive second baseman moving to shortstop. Yeah. That's a move you love to see.
But I will say, just looking at the Scooble letter, the thing that bothers me the most about it is that it's right justified. So I just I don't like that aesthetically. There's something about that that's displeasing to my eyes.
What it's what? Oh,
it's right justified. It's justified to the right side of the page, right? So it's like, you put it up there. Like,
he's on the right side. Yeah.
He's on the left. Yeah.
Yeah. I do. You know what's funny is it reminds me of your education at Eastern Michigan, where you told me a story how you're learning old school school publication stuff, right? Like printing press stuff, right?
Yeah, it's called kerning. You had to learn about the it was from actually like printing presses, and you had to learn about the actual width of letters in newsprint and stuff like that. That's just because I'm old. Like newspapers were still a thing when I was in college. Anyway, it's a very nerdy editor type thing that bothers me. But I don't know.
Did anybody say that Cole Keith sucks at defense? No one ever said that.
Wait, where's that?
Stan was saying if Torrey's and Keith's defense sucks so bad, both teams go so deep in the playoffs last year.
I mean,
Keith got better as a second baseman. He improved throughout the year.
But and the numbers on Keith were. It depends on what you look at, right? He was very bad by defensive runs saved, but outs above average had him, I think, as an above average second baseman.
Yeah.
Now Torres, I think, was bad everywhere, but whatever. I did.
I think you might have been Torque on that one. Other one, Torque and Keith's defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Torrey Hunter's probably not a great defender anymore.
Probably not.
Well, you just arguably got worse at both positions. I mean, if we're being honest, that's kind of what we're saying. Torres is going to be worse. Has graded out worse. I'm not going to say he's going to be worse. And Cole Keith is playing first base for the first time in a full professional season. It's just, I'm not saying this means, it's not like their defense in one or two positions isn't going to mean that they're terrible. It just means that it's just based on the numbers, based on the Motor City metrics. It's just that's where the defense is looking right now. You know, like that's
wait,
all.
Wait, hold on, wait. I forgot we have a new sound effect for that.
Oh,
yeah. Every time you mention the show name.
Detroit Degenerate's hot take there that the Yankees missed the playoffs this year. I think there's a very real possibility. They're without Garrett Cole.
That, right?
Yep.
I didn't have him or had them. We did our predictions last week. I didn't have the Yankees in there. I think multiple people. You lose Garrett Cole, you lose Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Stanton's hurt. Who'd they bring in to help? They brought in Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. Jazz is a good player, but I don't know. The rest of the rotation doesn't. Luis Heel had a good first half last year. He wasn't a good second half.
No.
I don't know. I mean, it's they seem like they always figure out a way to weasel into the playoffs, but it wouldn't shock me at all if they don't this year.
So I think the Yankees are. You know what? I think those moves remind me of what Steinbrenner used to do. George Steinbrenner used to do is they sign just veterans and just put them on the roster and hope and see that there would be. It was kind of like adding star power in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they don't have. I don't see their bullpen kind of being the old Yankees stop bullpen, if you will. I think the AL East is a lot more wide open than people expect it to be. I think Boston's going to be really good this year.
Yeah, I do too.
But Boston, if their pitching can hold up, what's up?
Oh, nothing. I didn't know if we were going to do our segments, but I have a little something about Boston.
Yeah, so that would probably, Boston would probably be part of your Simply This. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Segue right into that.
I had it inside the number 2, but whatever. We could save it for later. It's fine. Nobody cares. We're not ready for that level of nerdiness yet.
Yeah, that's true.
The season hasn't started. My good was players getting paid. We've seen a handful of extensions in the last week or so. Tanner Bybee got an extension. Alejandro Kirk, Cal Raleigh, Justin Martinez and that was interesting because you don't normally see relievers get those sort of deals. I think Clase got one, but obviously, he's the sort of pitcher you want to lock up. And a lot of times these deals end up being favorable to the team, but I'm never going to get too upset with a player for taking life changing money. And I kind of like it for the fans, right? Like it's when you kind of make that commitment early on, you get the feeling that, like, all right, this is going to be a guy that fans can relate to for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And I don't know, that seems good to me. Bad, it's usually the same. My bad around this time of year is always pitcher injuries. It's just the way it is. But we already mentioned Garrett Cole, McClanahan, from the Rays, got hurt again. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but Jared Jones is hurt. Grayson Rodriguez, DJ Hurds, Jordan Montgomery, Ranger Suarez, Yu Darvish, Ryan Weathers, Luis Garcia, all of the White Sox we talked about. And it's not just pitchers, right? Like, Tigers can attest to that with all their center fielders, but like Gunnar Henderson's out, Spencer Steer, Dalton Varsho, Connor Norby. It's rough out there for injuries in spring. And my ugly, and again, it's a little too early for any true ugly stuff to happen, but it did crack me up that they just came right out today and said, yep, Rafael Devers is going to be the DH, even though he said no. And then Bregman is going to be the regular third baseman. And that means that, Masataka Yoshida, who they're paying $18 million a year to, is basically going to do nothing because he was a terrible outfielder. Like, he's been a decent hitter, offensive, but he's a terrible outfielder, so they were playing him mostly as DH. He didn't like that. I guess he's going to be some more terrible outfield, but yeah, like I just kind of I feel like I do think that Boston could be really good this year, but I also feel like there might be some disharmony percolating from inside the clubhouse there, and we could have another chicken and beer situation down the road.
My good, by the way, I do want to mention is Cam Smith making the opening roster for the Astros. And I'm only doing that because, quite frankly, it's self-serving to me because I wanted the Tigers to draft Cam Smith because I thought Cam Smith had the best tools. I was pretty adamant about that. I don't try to do the braggadocious kind of thing, but it is cool to see. And Houston got a deal. I think Houston did their homework on that. And what's up?
No, they're going to clean up on that deal. Like, Kyle Picker's a great player, and I even had him for MVP, but Paredes is going to hit 30 home runs into the short porch there, and Smith, who knows what Smith's going to do? He's going to play right field, I think, which is fine. Tigers could have used that too. So, I mean, I have no issues with Bryce Rayner.
Me neither. No. After what I saw, I have no issues. Let me be clear. I have no issues with Bryce Rayner whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I just thought Cam Smith was a good player. I liked him at Florida State. His numbers in the Cape Cod League, stuff like that. Just if Tigers didn't draft him, who cares at the end of the day? But I just really like Cam Smith a lot, so I'm excited for him, and that's good for baseball too. Because to me, it's just if a guy can play no matter what. It's not this he has to get some farm time and blah blah blah. No, if he's the best player available, put him on the team. Simple as that. You know what? That's so weird. Detroit degenerate. My bad is the St. Louis Cardinals have done nothing. Zero. Nothing. They have done. If I'm doing this voice, it's because I'm just disappointed. It's my disappointed voice. Yeah, you're right. Detroit degenerate says, I still can't believe Nolan has not been moved. Referring to Nolan Arenado. Meanwhile, your lineup out there for the Cardinals too. Nothing exciting. I'm sorry, Mike. I don't know what the Cardinals are doing. I mean, I saw this in some division. I know I'm as a low blow to you. I always try to do that with the Cardinals because, that's the way I roll. But
they deserve it.
They deserve it. But again, nothing. You can't be imaginative at all with this. Imagine me. I mean, Cardinal fans right now, I think it was the first year last year. It was the first time in quite a long time they had their attendance numbers were down. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them. Do you blame them? I mean, if you're not going to change anything about the roster because of whatever circumstances behind it, you're not going to be creative? I mean, I'm sure Boston had a deal, and St. Louis just probably wanted too much. They're probably like, we want Campbell, they probably wanted everybody, and Boston's like, no.
Marcelo,
yeah. So I don't know, but and the ugly, by the way, is the whole situation with potentially a lockout with the players right now. That is something that's been talked about and looming in the background for a while. And when I watched the Dodgers game, the Cubs last week, when Rob Manfield was on TV and he was talking about like this place that serves pancakes and everything, it's just Rob Manfield just seems like a kind of guy that just is just gonna be doing like this, like la 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 la, just trying to ignore it to the last possible second. Because I think the players are knowing there's going to be changes to come, and there has to be some sort. I'm not one of those people who they have to have a salary cap. Nothing like that. No. Baseball, there's some things that baseball need to change, and the owners need to give them with it. There's no expansion has been not happening, and keep talking about it. It's not. I don't know. Like there's certain things that have to change with baseball that make it much more streamlined sport for younger audiences and everything like that. And I don't know. I feel like baseball's going to be hitting some weird times coming up soon. So, anybody else want to have their good or bad ugly this week?
My good is, probably some people will disagree with, and that's okay. I think that Scott Harris showed patience and no panic, really, by going out and finding a legitimate center fielder that could start. Because with all these guys hurt and coming back, ostensibly coming back, to saddle themselves with another player that they wouldn't ultimately need if Parker Meadows comes back, I think they've been better off to just patch internally. And as Chris noted earlier, it's unprecedented to lose 4 center fielders. There's no way to plan around that. So it was interesting today that he said he expects to see Ryan Kreidler a lot in center field. And I think it's the way to go. Could it be ugly at times? Sure. If he hits a $110, that'll really be ugly. But I think going out and finding, some stopgap center fielder and giving up anything of significance for it would have been a mistake. So I think that was a good move. In the end, we'll just see how it all plays out. My bad, we already talked about it, was the keyhole on the mound. I liked it. I think being the last one would have been okay to keep around. But again, it's just a story for a couple of days, and it goes away into the dustbin. But hopefully someday they'll bring it back, which would be nice too. Ugly. I don't know if I really have too much of an ugly this week. I mean, more of it's just I'm happy. I'm just happy opening days here. It's been a long winter. The Tigers finished on such a nice streak last year. It's going to be good to get them back in our lives again with real baseball starting tomorrow. It could be a bit of a slow start, as we talked about the reasons why, being on the West Coast with good opponents. But, the Tigers should be able to pitch with most teams night in and night out, which should lead us to a lot of close ball games. And I think it's going to be a good season. I predicted 79 and 83 because I'm a little bit leery about the bullpen and the offense. But still, I think they're a competitive team. And I think they have a window where they could, if things go right, they could push upper 80s and win that many games. So it's exciting to get this thing rolling.
All right. What about you, Mike?
All right. Got to be real. I missed them. I didn't realize we were doing this today, but I got it. It's all right. I got a good, bad, and the ugly here. Did this on the fly. So this is something I saw earlier today. Anyway, Hayden Senger made the Mets roster. It's just a good story. It's just one of those things. He's got a wife and a kid, and he had to get a summer job because he was making crap money in the minors, and a couple injuries for the Mets let him make the opening day roster. And I just, there's a lot of bad things going into opening day, a bunch of players not making the roster. It's just kind of cool when you see a couple guys do make the roster. Just feel good story.
Yeah.
I also just agree with you. It's baseball finally here. I've been so excited all week. Like I feel like tomorrow is legitimately a holiday. It really does feel like that in my head right now. Call me cynical, maybe that's the the word Roger used earlier, but I didn't like the scuba letter. I don't like the timing of it. I don't like the implications of it. I don't like it coming from the official Detroit Tigers social media, and I'm going to tell you why. If they would have spent a bunch of money and we had higher expectations than we did last year, then maybe I'd feel more hyped up. But this just feels like, hey, we didn't spend any money, but we made a run last year, so here we go again. And it's like, to me, it feels like the it feels like the team's just trying to distract you from the fact that they kind of disappointed us this offseason. That was my gut feeling outside of the whole trading situation, because that was definitely a feeling too. Again, maybe I'm crazy, but that's still the vibe I'm getting from it. And I don't love it. And the ugly was something we talked about earlier, but I'm just going to bring it up again. I do think there's a chance that the White Sox could be as bad as they were last year. I really do. I think that they could, it's not like they're going to be buying at the trade deadline. So I don't really know how you could sap them of further talent, but if they find a way, they're going to try. And I think that's incredibly ugly, but it is going to be a storyline I'm going to be rooting for all season.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. The Tigers are going to distract you with. The White Sox are going to try to distract you with bobbleheads and all that stuff. But nothing's going to bring you down to the ballpark. But I will say this about the scuba letter. Then we're going to take off for the evening, because tomorrow we're going to watch the game at 7:10. It's the ESPN game. It's a national game. So let me just say this about the letter. I think it's fine. The more I read it, I think it's just. I think the Tigers are trying to proactively get. They had the fan interaction day today where they're introducing the food and all that stuff. All corresponds, and they have the new club seats with the air conditioning, cools your ass and keeps your, all that stuff, all the bells and whistles. That it's also the 25th anniversary. They revealed the logo today for that, which looks pretty cool to me. There's a lot to be excited about, and there's also some things to be skeptical about as well. Tiger Mike had one of the best comments, and it was funny. He goes, "Why can't they just put the Italian sausage in a damn regular roll than in a hot dog bun?" And that is honestly a great critique, because you get Italian sausage in a hot dog, it is like literally it. You know what it is? It's like when you run out of hot dog buns and you take the white bread and you curl it up. You think that's good enough bun? It's not.
No,
it's never. It is never. That's ghetto toasting, and it's fine.
I'm fine with it. It's fine. I don't care.
You really?
I don't care about the meat delivery device.
I gotta be real. Sometimes I only have bread. You know what? I'll cut up a sausage, like dice it up, and then I put it on the sandwich bread. And you eat it like
cut
that.
up the hot dog? What are you?
Yeah.
What are you 10? What do you put that in your macaroni?
It's the St. Louis style hot dog.
It's a better way to eat it. If you got to use bread, why would you use it as a bun? I don't eat it that way.
I use it as bun. I don't care. I don't like
mega doo-doo.
My mom, when we were out of hot dog buns, we'd have a hamburger bun in the house. She would slice the hot dog up and kind of lay it out on the hamburger bun. I hated that.
Yeah, exactly. A hot dog is supposed to be consumed in, like, you don't slice it up. Unless you want your macaroni and cheese, you want your baked beans,
Sometimes when you have two things in your house to eat, and it is a loaf of white bread and 4 hot dogs, Roger, you tend to make do. That's what you do.
So listen, no, I think sometimes the like the sausage buns are there's too much bread. Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, at a ballpark, it's usually you're getting a pretty hefty sausage, so that's fine. But like if you buy like a Johnsonville brat or whatever, and you get like a full sausage bread, it's too much. But I pride myself on not caring about what other people eat. You eat whatever the hell you want, however you want it. I don't care. You take that sausage and put it in a blender and drink it. Good for you. Not for me. Good for you. Have fun. I don't care.
Yeah, Samuel goes, imagine somebody tuning in right now going, these guys are not talking about baseball. No, look, here's the thing. At the ballpark, when you get Italian sausage with peppers, the reason why you get that bread is so that the peppers fill in the gap on the roll. You get a proper roll of the Italian sausage. Same with a Cuban sandwich. A Cuban sandwich is about the bread. If you don't use the right bread, it's not like every time I get a Cuban sandwich, it was like, oh, well, you can get it with like, I've seen it places served in Royal Oak with like wheat bread or like panini style. It is technically a panini press if you want to get technical with it. But it's French bread. That is a Cuban. That is a proper Cuban sandwich with that. And it's the same thing with Italian sausage. You get a hot dog bun. The peppers are just smushed in there. It doesn't taste right. It doesn't taste different. Really, Sam, you're right. We shouldn't give a flying F. You know what? If you like pineapple on your pizza, a hot dog's a sandwich, whatever, fine. But I just thought that rant about like the reason why I'm mentioning that rant is because we don't have to have those rants anymore. Baseball's here, so we don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
where do we stand on the pretzel bun?
Sure, whatever. I don't know if I think I've had the pretzel pizza. I don't know if that's gone now. I
like a good pretzel bun.
I like what I will eat just about anything, and I like good food, and I like bad food.
Clearly, I like good food. I mean, look at me. I mean, for Christ's sake. I mean, like, even though I've lost 30 pounds this summer, in this off season, I still like to eat, and it's not like I don't know.
There were times in college where I simply had no time to cook the hot dog.
I didn't have so for me when I was poor, I would get when I was super poor, I just get either like the Hot Pockets, or I just would like delicious Hot Pockets. Yeah. But when it came to hot dogs, I was a snob about it. Like we just did, like
Hebrew National.
Not even necessarily Hebrew National, but it just always had a bun, no matter what. I didn't care if there's 5 hot dogs and no bread. I'm not. Guess what? I'm not eating hot dogs. So, anyways, baseball's back. Let's talk about baseball. It's good to talk baseball. Yeah, nachos and all those good stuff. But before we end the podcast, I do want to celebrate our friend John Kloss, who passed away the beginning of the season last year, and John Kloss I wish there's more we could do to honor John Kloss. But if you notice, our show ends with Stan Klossy, and it always will. Just a salute to him, his optimism, his passion, his dedication to everything, whatever he did in life is missed all the time. I talked to his dad last week, and just a small conversation, and he told us he was getting a tattoo, and his grandparents, I got him Tiger minor league shirts, and they sent pictures of them wearing it, and then I know I got some tears. It was cool. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely miss John. But yeah, this is the time of year for him. If he was around right now, he'd be stoked. And
I know. It's hard to believe it's been a year. I mean, we've got playoffs from the Tigers and the Pistons. Mm-hmm. You got to believe that he's smiling somewhere about that. So
absolutely,
yeah, great point too about the Pistons too. He loved the Pistons. He was trying to do a Pistons podcast, and he did a couple episodes on the Metrics channel as well. And yeah, so
the young man, he was so positive. Always fun to talk to. He could take a joke as well as give a joke. I mean, you could make fun of him, and he knew what it was, how it was meant, because we loved the guy, And it's not the same. I mean, we still have our fun here, and it's all great, but miss him terribly.
Yeah. On that note, though, everybody enjoy opening day. We'll talk to you next week. For some people on the Tiger minor league side of things, we'll be probably doing a podcast probably this weekend. I'll be out in Toledo with Ashley on Friday, and probably I'll be out there in Toledo on Saturday for the opener, as the Mud Hens are. I'm drawing a blank who they're playing. All of a sudden, I can't remember. Does it really matter who Toledo's playing? No?
It's kind of banana.
Is it Rochester? No, it's not Rochester, is it?
It is Columbus.
Columbus, that's right. Okay,
the hated Clippers.
Yeah. So we'll be down there for opening day. I'll be down there for opening day on Friday and part of Saturday as well. Ashley will be with us. So thank you, Columbus. Okay, so thank you, Jake, for that as well. So is that a Orlando Solar Bears logo? That's an old that's an IHL team, I believe. Yeah, nice. All right. Sort of ADHD moment there. I saw the Solar Bears. I'm like, wow, that was around the time when the Vipers were playing. So on that note, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, everybody.